Welcome back to Bets of the North. Drunk Doug is back because we got smoked last week. Doug Lesmerises, Tyler Shoemaker, and I'm stumbling back to the window. TShoe, we are still up more than $1,000 with our real money bets for the year. So that's not nothing, brother, right?
No, I mean, that's great. If you would have told me going into week one, like, hey, week 7, you guys are going to be up $1,000. You know, what are we now? 4-2 on our $500 plays. Like, you sign up for that every day of the week. I know we had some disgruntled listeners and viewers. I kind of had some time for the trolls on Saturday. I don't know if you saw that, but my patience was pretty thin. But like I said, we're gonna have weekends like that. It's gonna happen. Even the $500 bet, the Ohio State game, like looking at the score, like it looked like it was not even close. But if you watch the game, it was like, Ohio State moved the ball up and down the field. Iowa moved the ball, missed a field goal. Like that. It wasn't as bad as it looked. But at the end of the day, we didn't cash, and so we'll try to make it back up this week.
Yeah, we're a real betting show. We're getting yelled at for losing. Like we're here. Yeah. And what you meant to say was, if someone told you that week 7, when you are forced to bet with Doug, that we would be ahead, you would definitely take it. So like that's like
you definitely sign up for that.
I'm sure. I know you when you're doing your gambling shows with like your real gambling buddies, you're like, oh, this guy I got to work with on my other show. It is crazy. But I'm wearing my lemon shirt. I got on my Pixar hat and TShoe. We are going to be back this week. So yes, we lost last week. We had the Ohio State Iowa first half total over 23.5, and the halftime score was 7-0. So that was a loser. As TShoe said, like the second half, they went way over, and you had a good stat going into the game that Ohio State scores 75% of its points in the first half. And it's like, it just was not our day with that bet at all. Yep. And then I got hung up on this Florida State thing and really thinking that Florida State could upset Clemson. So we played a Florida State money line play that didn't hit. And then we also did a Florida State plus 15 and a Florida plus 2.5. Florida did win outright. And then Clemson kicked a field goal to win by 16 in the end that screwed us on the plus 15 for the Seminoles.
Yeah. And what was really annoying about that is you don't want to come on here and complain because it is what it is. We record when we record, but the closing line on that game was 16.5. So Florida State covered the closing line, but not the line that we betted at,
for real?
Thursday evening. So yeah, that's what sucks about it is they covered the closing line. So that parlay was not bad. That we absolutely had a chance. Well, and Florida State dropped a touchdown on the final drive where they almost backdoored it. So it happens. Wow. It was not our week for sure, but I
did not realize that about the closing line, man. Recording on Thursdays for the birds. Why don't we just get up at 4:00 in the morning and record Friday morning like everybody wants us to? We don't need to sleep. I will say, TShoe, I went 3-0 on my other best bets last week, and I picked 3 underdogs, and all 3 underdogs won straight up. So yeah. I actually did not. I played those 3 picks as a parlay, which for a $4 bet or whatever, cashed nicely. I did play 2 of them as a money line parlay that hit. I didn't play all 3 as a money line parlay. That would have been really nice. So I felt good about my best bets last week. I'm now at 8-6 on the year with best bets. You're 10-11. So we're above water with our best bets. We're 4-2 on our $500 bets. We're still up money on our plus money swings. And like I said, we're up $1,200 for the year. So we will take it overall so far, and we're going to lick our most recent. Again, it's I just got to get better at the money part. Sometimes they're thinking football, but the money part. Why was I so hung up on Florida State, a stupid Southern team? Why wasn't I that confident in West Virginia or something? That should have been the money. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
stupid South.
No, I played as much or bigger part in that pick as you. I thought that was going to be the perfect kind of buy low spot on Florida State, the perfect buy high spot on Clemson. And again, against the spread, they did cover the closing line. It's whatever.
Okay. So we're still ahead. We have already made the bets for this week. And TShoe, when you're wounded, sometimes you crawl back to what feels good. And what feels good on this show is rooting against Georgia. Not just rooting against Georgia, but Betting against Georgia, $500 real money play. Mississippi State plus 34 against the Dogs. The bet is in at minus 112 on DraftKings. This was one of your suggestions, TShoe. Mississippi State is not good, but they have scored. They lost to Toledo, for instance, but they have scored even when they lost. And I'm not sure that Georgia's even going to score 34 in this game. They're in between like this. They still are getting over the Alabama loss from 2 weeks ago, and they're playing Texas next week. And so I think it's a little bit of a spot here, but mathematically, you also like this, right? This was one of your suggestions.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. This is kind of the look ahead spot. I mean, if the look ahead spot, voodoo kind of exists, it's for games like this where they've got Texas on deck next week that will really define their season now that they already have a loss to the other best team on their schedule. So I project 25.5 here. I don't get it. So Georgia's average margin of victory, even taking out their loss, so like just looking at their wins, their average margin of victory is only 16.5 against FBS opponents this year. And then when you factor in the other FBS team they played, Alabama, that number goes down to 11. So like, I don't know. I don't know where this almost 5 touchdowns comes from. I think this is going to be a great opportunity. I won't be surprised if Mississippi State keeps this, within 3 or 4 touchdowns throughout the whole game. But one thing that kind of gives me, as you say, like extra comfort with this is like, even if Georgia's up 35 or 38, late in the game, I think the back door is going to be wide open here. Mississippi State's going to want to make it as respectable as possible. Georgia's likely going to have the backups in most of the fourth quarter. I think this is a really good opportunity for us to bet against the Dogs. I like it a lot.
Mississippi State is 1-4, but they only trailed Texas 14-6 at the half in their last game. They lost that game 35-13, and that included Texas scoring a touchdown with 3 minutes left to play. They scored 28 against Florida. They scored 17 against Toledo. They scored 23 against Arizona State in a loss. So I just think I don't think Georgia's, honestly, I think Georgia, like if I just set a point total for Georgia of what I think they'll score, I think I'd say 35. And then I don't think Mississippi State's going to get shut out. So I feel spot. Why do you think it's so high? Like when you look at this and you're talking about that your numbers have it at 25.5, you said, and that like their average margin of victory isn't huge. What do you think this is? Is this Georgia as a public team? Why is this line so high?
Yeah. So I'm looking to see. Okay, so I had mentioned before that I have been trying to replicate the odds makers kind of power ratings if I can, using the numbers that I have at my disposal. Even trying to do that, I only can get to 27. So I don't get it. We're getting an extra touchdown here. We'll take it.
And I do. When we first started talking about this, I think it was at 33.5, and we got it at 34, which is a little bit of a key number, right? Like I was like very excited on the different, because I was like sitting here thinking like we're gonna lose 34-0, like that's. But like now we push at 34-0. So I possibly love this bet, and also now the thing is, TShoe, do you want to combine your heart, your gut, your brain, and your money? Do you want all of your body and your wallet rooting for the same thing? Is that good, or can that lead you astray? Because it warms my heart so much to bet against Georgia. I want to root against them anyway, and to also get to bet against them is a dream come true, but it's not too good, is it?
I don't think so. I think those are the type of bets that I want to make. Now, obviously, if it doesn't work out, you're that much more hurt. But I think this is a good bet. I mean, everything, heart, gut, and math all align here. So let's do it.
I love it. The Dogs can cram it. Cram it. Now the thing I don't see, this is what has screwed us up. Betting on a Southern team, right? So we were asking Florida State to do something last week. This is not betting on a Southern team. This is betting against a Southern team. We're not betting this because we love Mississippi State so much. Yep. We're not saying to ourselves, oh, Mississippi State, I don't even know who their quarterback is. Oh, that guy. Oh, that guy. We love him. We're not banking on that guy. We're banking on sluggish, look ahead, not as good as everybody thinks Georgia. So that I feel good about. I think I might be out of the business of betting on Southern teams. So I might be in the business of betting on Northern teams and betting against Southern teams. So this fits the second thing. Let's go. Dogs can cram it. All right. That's our $500 bet. We got it at minus 112 on DraftKings. It's Mississippi State plus 34 against the Dogs. Our plus money bet. This is a parlay. We were searching a little bit. The first one is Kansas State. It's a Kansas State money line parlay. So that's the first bet. Kansas State money line against Colorado. Kansas State's a 3.5-point favorite at Colorado. The second part is an Ole Miss LSU under 62. Now, you'll see it in a minute. I do like LSU at home in this game, getting plus 3.5. I did pick LSU to win on our Thursday show. So let's talk about that part of the parlay first, TShoe. Ole Miss LSU under 62. Yes, Jackson Dart, the Ole Miss quarterback, and Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU quarterback, have put up big numbers. But this is going to be a crazy crowd in Tiger Stadium. I do not know why the world is still so invested in an an Ole Miss team that lost to Kentucky. I was reading stuff like, is this going to be an Ole Miss statement game? I don't think it is going to be that. And 62 is a high number. So this I feel good about because we are betting on these two fraudulent SEC teams to not score as much as everybody else thinks they will. That I feel good about. Why did you like this as an under bet at 62?
Yeah, I actually bet this earlier in the week at 64.5. So I still like it at 62. So I agree with what you said. And I think to expand on that point, I think Ole Miss as a team is overrated, but I think more specifically their offense is overrated. And I kind of similarly think their defense might be a little undervalued. Like I think when people have this perception of Ole Miss as like a team of like what their power rating should be, I think most people put most of that on the offense and not the defense. And I think that's backwards. I think their defense is actually pretty solid. LSU's defense is actually pretty solid, especially relative to what it was last year when they were just a turnstile. But I only project this game at 57.5.
Okay.
And here's a stat for you. I tweeted this out earlier this week. Totals in the 60s so far this season have gone under 61% of the time.
Okay.
So we're already, we're betting into a very positive subset, and my number really likes it. I think this is a great bet on this leg of the parlay.
So I like both defenses being better than people expect. I like Ole Miss maybe going in here into a crazy primetime night crowd and turtling and putting up a 17. And now all of a sudden it's okay. Let LSU go score 42. We're still under. Like, I think, again, when you're betting an under, I like having, all right, I think that's just how it's going to go. But actually I got the game totally wrong, but I still won. So that my favorite kind of winning bets is being totally wrong and still winning. Hey, you chose to do a show with me. It's your fault.
We should have named this Accidental Winning with Doug Lesmerises.
Oh, man, we're ahead. Can you believe it? We're ahead. Woo, woo, woo. The other thing is Kansas State, I just like the money line here. I'm okay not betting it at minus 3.5 on DraftKings. Kansas State at minus 3.5 is minus 108. The money line is minus 162. So when we parlay this, we're plus 208. So we're 2-1. We're going to get back more than $300 if we win our $100 bet. I think Colorado is a good team. I think Kansas State is underrated. They're both coming off a bye. We talked about this, Bill Landis and I, on our Thursday show. I think it's possible the Kansas State offense is still just emerging. Their offensive line, they had 4 new starters. Chris Kleiman talked about, he feels like they're still coming together. I think they're still figuring out with Avery Johnson, but he threw it better than he has ever in his last game. The two-headed monster with DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards, I think, is still real. And I think Colorado's real, but I think Kansas State's the best team in the Big 12. So I know they're on the road, but I'm not at all afraid of this money line. I actually will be somewhat substantially perhaps shocked if Kansas State doesn't win this game. Why were you okay with us taking this money line as part of the parlay?
Yeah, I might get around to betting Kansas State against the spread this week anyway myself. So when you mentioned this, I definitely was on board here. I project it at Kansas State -7. And then when I did the math, to calculate what this parlay line should be, I actually only come up to 175. So we're getting good value here on this plus 208. So I like it from a math standpoint. And then, I mean, even just looking across the formulas here, I mean, it's all Kansas State. I mean, unanimous Kansas State's going to cover the spread, let alone win the game. So I really like this.
Okay. So it's just, it protects you a little bit on one of those where, 34-31, whatever, where all of a sudden you lose by half a point. So we'll take the money line. Again, better than 2-1 odds. We will take it. Feel good about both these bets, TShoe. And we felt good more often than not. I guess that's the whole point, right? I mean, do you do a lot of betting shows where you're like, I feel terrible about this bet, but I'm still going to put money on it?
No, I mean, kind of, because being a numbers guy, like I'll do like a hit on VSiN, and they're like, so like you really like this, and I'm like, I mean, the numbers tell me I should, so sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, but that's the whole thing. If people do wonder, like, what the hell this show is, that's what it is. It's numbers, and then I bring a tiny little bit of football into it, and we meet at the corner. We meet at the intersection of math and cram it, and we try to agree. So when we're betting the real money on it, it's stuff that we are trying to agree on. Because sometimes TShoe will send me stuff, and I'm like, well, we're not betting that because I'm actually opposite that. And so then it doesn't mean he's wrong, but it's like we're just not going to agree on that. So this is where we agree. These are our bets. Fingers crossed. If you've been riding with us, you're up. So that's good, but also sorry for last week. Okay. Best bets. Let's run through. And I actually disagree with some of your best bets here. So I'm very curious to hear what some of your best bets are. Mike, what's the first one we have up for a TShoe best bet? This is, it's the Ohio State-Oregon game, in which, if you watched our Wednesday gigantic big game breakdown on King to the North, I actually did pick Oregon to win. You are taking Ohio State -3 at -108 on DraftKings as one of your best bets. I am sure there are many people watching this who are very interested, TShoe, in why you think of this, the Buckeyes given the 3 as a best bet.
Yeah, and I hope those people are now like, well, Doug picked Oregon to win the game outright. TShoe's picking Ohio State to cover. Like that's got to be, I mean, music to your ears if you're
I will remind you, I was 3-0 my best bets last week.
You're beating me. You're beating me. I can't.
If I will say this, if I wasn't me, I would bet against me. So like, I am totally down with all the people who are like, I love watching this show because that guy in the lemon shirt's a ding dong. Are the numbers overwhelming here for you? As like, what would you set this line at?
Yeah, I mean, you and I have talked in the past. I generally try not to bet Ohio State against the spread just because I went to school there. Like, I have a vested emotional interest in their games, but I mean, it was pretty overwhelming. I project Ohio State -9.5 here.
Okay.
I mean, formulas were unanimous. I mean, as high as 13. So, I mean, all the numbers really liked Ohio State here. I think they're a really veteran team that's not going to be intimidated going into that stadium. And I've never been there, so I can't speak on it. But I was surprised to find out this week, and I know this has been kind of a popular thing on Twitter, that Autzen Stadium only holds like 60,000 people. Like, even as loud as 60,000 people can humanly get, I still have a hard time believing that's going to be a more intimidating environment than going to the Big House or going to Happy Valley or something like that, or Camp Randall. So I don't think this team's going to be intimidated at all. I've got Ohio State better on both sides of the ball. Ohio State's my number 2 offense, number 4 defense. Oregon's number 11 on offense and 17 on defense. So I just think Ohio State's better on both sides of the ball. I mean, Oregon, they have played better in their last game or two relative to how they played in the first game or two.
Yeah.
But I still have serious questions as to whether or not that's going to be good enough to be able to keep up with the weapons that Ohio State has all over the place on offense. And then defensively, really getting after. They got Tyleik Williams back last week. I think he's going to be a real factor in this game, playing a lot of snaps. So I really like the Buckeyes here.
The thing from the math standpoint is they substantially changed their interior offensive line that Oregon did that was like really throwing them off the first 2 weeks. And it was a huge problem. We talked about it a ton on Kings of the North. And they've adjusted for it. Like, is it completely fixed? Is their offensive line good? Maybe not. It's much better. So, and they did, the Boise game is hard to wrap your head around because they really probably should have lost to Boise State, but also Boise might make the playoff and Ashton Genty might win the Heisman. So I'm not even sure that's like by the end of the year, that will be a check mark plus on Oregon's resume. If they're not the Big Ten champ and they're trying to get in the playoff, it's like they beat Boise State, man. Boise's really good. So, like I'm curious how things like that, like obviously Oregon has a stronger power rating than a team like Boise, but actually like, you know, there are things that Boise does that are better than anybody, you know what I mean? Better than anybody on Oregon's schedule. Yeah. So the thing that I'm a little wary of from that standpoint is I do think this Oregon team is really quite substantially different than they were the first 2 weeks. So, but I think it's a banger. I think it's close. I think Ohio State's excellent. I think I'm still picking Ohio State to win the national championship, just not this game. So, betting on Ohio State does not seem like a crazy thing to do. You know, like I'm taking a little bit of a flyer here, taking Oregon. I think it requires Oregon to play better than they have played so far this year. And I do think it requires Ohio State, the travel, the road environment to get to them a little bit. Like Will Howard is a very veteran quarterback, but like he hasn't played a game like this at Ohio State yet. I mean, I think Oregon needs to elevate a little bit and Ohio State needs to come down a little bit for Oregon to win. I'm kind of anticipating that happens, but you have math. So that's your first best bet. And you love it. You love it. You're betting this in real life.
Well, yeah.
You're
one more note.
Life.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the travel thing because I tweeted this earlier because I heard Landis and Austin talking about it on the podcast this week about the, you know, East Coast to West Coast travel and vice versa. So I looked into it in games where a team had to travel from Eastern time zone to Pacific or vice versa. The Eastern team is 10-3 straight up as a favorite. So it's not like the teams are traveling as favorites and like experiencing these huge upsets. And really, I think two of the upsets were USC. So, So, you know, take that for what it's worth. But I did just want to put that out there in case people have heard that stat floating around. It's not as, you know, damning to Ohio State as it may seem on you know, for face value.
Right. And that's why for your second best bet, you are definitely taking Penn State at USC because you are saying the Eastern teams are the way to go. Great best bet. Oh, wait, you took USC. Oh, okay. Math.
Correct. I did. I do realize those concepts are a little contradictory, but I only project Penn State -1 here. And even before I saw a line on this game, when USC lost last week, like as soon as that game was over, I was like, all right, I need to be looking to see if there's value on USC next week because Penn State traveling to USC coming off a loss to Minnesota, who most people don't think is very good. I think this is the perfect spot to back USC. Now, if USC comes out and lays an egg and gets killed, like I'm probably done with them because they lost at Michigan. And now if you lose to Penn State, then it's like, okay, you're not as good as everyone thinks. But I do think there's a great buy low spot on them. The best offense that Penn State's played is West Virginia, obviously, and they're ranked just 26th in my ratings. USC's offense is 12th. And the best defense that Penn State's played is Illinois, and they're ranked 30th. USC's defense is ranked 13th. So I think this is going to be a real test for James Franklin's team. And to that note, are you really going to back James Franklin in a one-score game? Like he's great at beating up on teams that he's favored by 17 against.
Yeah.
But I would not want to, if I was betting this game, you know, neutral observer, I would not want to put money on James Franklin to cover a one-score game on the road.
The thing I do think is fair about this is USC laid 2 eggs at Michigan and at Minnesota, but I think like Lincoln Riley bringing a team to the Midwest versus Lincoln Riley getting to play in LA, I do think they're probably a substantially different team, but those results factor into the line here, TShoe, right? The fact that they lost to Michigan and Minnesota is affecting this line where I don't really think that's like the USC team that you're going to get. Now, I still think Penn State's going to win this game, but I don't even know the fact that they lost to Minnesota like really matters. Right. I picked that last week. I thought Minnesota had a good chance to upset them. But again, I was putting a lot of that on the travel. So this time they didn't have to travel. So I do think like this is I think it's a reasonable spot. And 4.5, right? I mean, that's a pretty good number for they have talent. It's a home dog with talent. 4.5. Like that's not nothing. Penn State could play a good game and win 31-28 and you cash your USC ticket. So,
yep.
All right. What's your last one?
Last one, I like Maryland and Northwestern under 45.5. This was one that kind of, as I'm scanning the board and I'm just not even looking at my number, just all right, what games would I feel good about that I need to look at the numbers and see? And this total is one of them. I think, Maryland gave up a bunch of points to Indiana a couple weeks ago. Northwestern just got in a high scoring game as well recently, so I think that's kind of inflated the number a little bit. I project this at 43, and 45 is the most key number here. So we're getting above that to bet an under. I really like that. And again, another trend here that I tweeted out this week on totals 45.5 to 50. Again, getting above that 45. The under is 103.76, good for 58% so far this year. So again, we're betting into a positive, profitable subset of games already, and the number likes it. And just my vibe of these teams, the average offense in this game is ranked 65th in my numbers, but the average defense is ranked 43rd. So this is a big defense advantage game. So I think unless there's fluky points off of turnovers or special teams or something like that, I think if this is just a straightforward offense-defense game, I really like this to go under.
Both defenses are better than both offenses. Northwestern's been led by a defense. They played their best offensive game last week. Maryland is coming off a bye. Billy Edwards is pretty good, but again, I think there's multiple ways to get this under, right? 23-20, close game, but also Northwestern goes on the road and lays an egg, and Maryland wins 31-3, and you're under. So, I think both of those are possible. Northwestern's still playing a young quarterback. Cam Porter, their running back, who missed a game and then was limited last week, should be back. But Northwestern's got a lot of moving parts here, and going on the road, they went to Washington and barely had a functional offense, right? So them on the road trying to score points is not a great situation necessarily. I thought about this one too. So I like this one. I do like this under. TShoe, 3 best bets. There they are. Here are my best bets. And my first one is going to be, I just think Ole Miss is going to trip over itself at LSU. So I'm going to take LSU plus 3.5. I get that at minus 115 on DraftKings. This is an anti-Ole Miss bet. Again, on my list of teams from the South to root against. Georgia is clearly number one, but Ole Miss is up there, man. And it's not personal with Ole Miss. I don't hate Lane Kiffin. I hate the way the national media thinks about Ole Miss. And so that makes me want them to do poorly so that all the people who think that Ole Miss is an offensive juggernaut get to be wrong. So I just think this is, again, a home dog. I'm not sure LSU isn't better than Ole Miss anyway. I think LSU might be better than Ole Miss. But at home, they're getting 3.5. I think that is, I can't believe I'm getting more than a field goal for LSU at home in that environment. So I definitely will take that. What's my second bet? Is it Minnesota? Mike, what's my second bet? Oh, it is Minnesota. I actually think Minnesota has found something. I think they figured something out last week. Sometimes off a big win like that, beating USC, TShoe, you'd be ready for a letdown. I think UCLA is bad. And so I think Minnesota, it's more likely that they sort of keep this rolling. And I'm going to play off the confidence builder of the USC comeback win and less on they'll have a come down. So I'm taking Minnesota minus 4.5 at UCLA. I bet you don't. Do you not like this?
I don't. I actually considered, I haven't bet this game, but I actually considered taking UCLA here for basically the exact opposite reason you just said of okay, Minnesota's coming off a big win. Now are they in a letdown spot? Where I agree with you. UCLA is not a good team. This would not be a play on UCLA for me. It would just be a fade of Minnesota after a big win against USC last week.
Okay, so I just believe in PJ Fleck. I'm not going to apologize for that. Not going to apologize for wearing lemons on my shirt
this week.
Not going to get my lemons in the boat.
You bet them one more week, and I'm going to have to get you a Minnesota jersey for Christmas. That's going to be your Christmas gift again this year.
Can it have a big happy gopher face on it, please? If I'm going to wear a Minnesota article of clothing, I would like it to have a gopher face on it. And the last one I think I like the best, which is I think Cal's going to fall asleep. I am anti-Cal because of the spot. Cal, game day comes. Everybody loves their social media. They blow it against Miami. They should have won, and now they have to fly to Pittsburgh. And so I think Pitt is going to roast Cal. I think Cal's a little overrated. They've beaten Auburn. Auburn stinks. I think that Cal was built up a little bit by doing some overrated things. I think Pitt is still underrated. And so I think this actually has a chance to get out of hand. I might also look into some alternate lines here. If I can, bet Pitt -9.5, bet Pitt -13.5, take some swings on that. I really like this one. I feel very good about giving the 3.5 at -108 on DraftKings, but I don't think your numbers have liked Pitt that much. Is that true?
No, that is true. And it sucks because I agree with everything you just looking at this game without looking at the numbers, I absolutely agree. I think Cal is in a major letdown spot here after getting the wind sucked out of their sails, having Miami on the ropes, late night last week. Miami comes back and wins that game by 1. Now Cal's got to travel to Pitt. I think this is a great spot. I agree with all of that from a vibe, non-quantifiable standpoint. The numbers like Cal here. I mean, barely. It's not like overwhelming, but the numbers would lean Cal here. So it's a stay away from me, but I absolutely agree with the spot assessment that this is a major Pitt or nothing.
Vibes. Yeah. We're making a vibes bet. The bets are in. We bet $100 on the Kansas State money line, Ole Miss LSU under 62 parlay. We'll win $308.75. That's what we'll get back if we hit on that. And then the Mississippi State plus 34 bet is in at -112. If we hit that, we will get back $946.42. If we lose both TShoe, we'll still be up $613. So we'd still be ahead. We'd still be above water. We'd still be 4-3 on our $500 bets, but I don't want to wish that into existence. I want to wish 5-2 into existence. I think we're in a good spot. We'll take it, right? We would take it. I wanted to go undefeated. I wanted to go 14-0. I did. So I'm a little bit mad that now we can only go 12-2, but we'll take it.
We will definitely take it. I'm excited. I actually carved out some time to do some actual analysis this week instead of just running around with like a chicken with my head cut off and just going from one show to another and doing that whole song and dance. I actually got to dive into some numbers and look at how the season has played out thus far, and so I feel even better about my bets, about my numbers this week. I kind of made some formula tweaks and that sort of thing, so I feel as good as I felt all season just from a preparation standpoint. So I'm excited.
Yes, and also I have a sword. So how about that?
And Doug has
and I have a sword. I actually have 2 swords, but the other one's under the table. All right. Hopefully next week I don't have to be. Man, let's make another bet. We were 17 points off on the Ohio State first half last week, but let's make another bet. Hopefully I won't have to be drunk next week. Next week I'll just be a mature, successful bettor because we'll have hit these picks. We always appreciate you guys joining us every Friday morning. Number one, we hope you think it's fun and interesting and entertaining and a little bit of a different way to look at college football. And then if you want to ride with us, we hope you're winning. That's all. Right? TShoe, fun first. Wait. That's mine. Fun first, money second. Are you fun first, money second, or are you money first?
I'm a little bit money first. I do want everyone to have fun. And trust me, no one has less fun when we're losing than me. I assure you that. So you don't have to tweet me and let me know that the bet's lost, because trust me, I know I was tracking them. I'm the one that put in the hours of research to make them. I get it. I understand. So no, we appreciate everyone, and it's been fun so far this season.
Now you sound like a college football coach. It's hey, nobody dislikes losing more than us. Coach TShoe. Hey, I know the results, man. All right. Thanks to our producer, Mike Yorstowski, for making us look good and sound good as usual. TShoe, I'm feeling good. I'll see you back here next Friday, brother.
Yes, sir. We'll see you.
He's Tyler Shoemaker. I'm Doug Lesmerises. And that was Bets of the North on Kings of the North.